Hey gang, thanks for joining me on another gear review here at Cowtown Range in sunny Phoenix, AZ. The Odin is Olight's first dedicated long gun light. I have applied my own series of not safe for work TSA spec backyard testing to it, and you'll get to see if I manage to break it. But first, a word from our sponsor, TNVC. If you like seeing stuff more than not seeing stuff, take a look at our sponsor, TNVC.com, your source for quality night vision gear to make you the bump in the night. No, this doesn't mean a flash sale is coming. The Odin has been out for a while, and I've been dragging it around behind the seat in my pickup for months. Before we get to my opinions about this light, let's just look at the facts about it. It's comparable to the Surefire Scout in form factor and intended to be used in the same manner. It does have a tail cap switch and can be used without the tape switch, but this is designed from the beginning as a weapon light. The last light from Olight that I looked at was the Warrior, which is a bit of a chonk for a pocket light, but survived some of my abuse, and I've carried it for months without breaking it. Honestly, I'm actually kind of fond of it, and I think I'm going to continue wearing it for forever.
Forever, ever?
Although I have my druthers about how the switches work, we've learned to tolerate each other, mostly because the convenience of the magnetic charger is so enormous it would probably outweigh even bigger issues. The manufacturer claims the Odin has a 2000 lumen LED, and that seems to be about right, but as you know, beam shape and an efficient reflector are a lot more important than raw lumens at the emitter. In any case, this light does radiate a lot of photons. It's hella bright, yo. But it would stop melting faces and start melting itself if it stayed on at that power level for long, so the Odin is designed to run at 2000 lumens for 2 minutes, then step down to only 1000 lumens for 9 minutes, then 760 lumens for 125 minutes, then 300 lumens for 24 minutes. For those of you playing along with the home game, that's 160 minutes total runtime. The manufacturer also claims it will run at 300 lumens for a solid 8 hours in the low power mode, but so far as I can tell, you can only use that mode with the tail cap switch. The tape switch only activates the high output mode. Like the charger, it connects magnetically, and I will never stop loving this feature. The tape switch connector also has a locking ring, and it is intended to prevent accidentally disconnecting it. To activate the light in momentary mode, hold the switch, and when you release, the light will turn off. If you tap the switch quickly, the light will stay on. Or you could forego the tape switch entirely and use only the tail cap if you prefer. Pressing lightly will turn the light on in low, 300 lumen, and pressing harder will activate the full Ark of the Covenant mode. A quick tap of the appropriate firmness will turn the light on in the respective mode until the button is pressed again. As the battery nears empty, it will begin to vibrate more and more frequently. This feature straight blew my mind. It's one of those things that now that I'm aware of it, I feel like it should have been around a long time ago. Of course the light should vibrate to tell you it's about to stop working. We should have thought of that 20 years ago. Now hold tight and I'll walk you through some of the testing that I did on this thing. Or snuff film if you prefer. So the real test was running the Odin for 2 days and about 1,000 rounds in a carbine class with Jeff Gonzalez of Trident Concepts. I intentionally mounted the light out in front of the muzzle where it would get lots of muzzle blast and carbon. To give you a little idea of the beating it was taking throughout that class, here's some high-speed video of liverwurst and a goldfish stuck to the light. Because reasons. I noticed multiple times throughout the class the Odin was running due to that tap for constant feature. Who knows how long it ran, but it puts out mondo photons, and the carbon buildup on the lens absorbed most of them, melting the lens a little bit. It still worked, but the beam was a little misshapen. Not bad, but I think I can actually break this thing. So I put on my TSA spec open-toed shoes and safety squints and dropped it on a concrete block until it broke. Of course, this isn't remotely fair. Those are some hard hits, but I feel like I owe it to you guys to deliver some gore. Okay, with the sciencey stuff out of the way, let's move on to my opinion, and we may as well get the elephant out of the room first. I didn't pay for this light. Olight provided it at no charge. They wanted us to do a flash sale, but we declined. But let's move on to my opinions about the features on this light. First, the locking connector for the tail cap switch is just dumb. I know this isn't going to be a popular opinion, but I feel like it's a solution in search of a problem. Is it possible to yank the magnetic connector off the light? Sure, but there's a tail cap switch right there underneath. The light still works by pressing the tail cap switch, and what's more, the Odin will also still work once you flip that little magnetic connector back on. Because look, you can pull the connector out of a Scout or any other light if you catch it on something. It may be harder to do, but if that cable catches, it could come out no matter how securely it is connected to the light. In fact, the harder the connection is, the more likely the cable connector is damaged when they're caught on something. Ideally, you cable manage well enough to avoid getting the cable snagged on anything. But if the cable were to snag, what failure mode do you really want? It comes off but can be replaced easily, and by the way, there's a backup switch right underneath there? Or do you want the snag to permanently damage the cable and or connector? That said, you don't have to lock the connector in place, so it's not like the option hurts anything. The QD mount is just stupid though. There's no other way to say it. I appreciate that you can change the orientation of the light on the mount, but the mount should be quick detachable from the rail. Who wants to quickly dismount the light to swap for a different one? That's not a thing people do. And we don't want to buy spares of your goofy proprietary mount either. It is common to swap a light between rifles though, and the rifles mostly all have Picatinny rail. So yeah, the mount is backwards. It should have been designed so that the orientation is swappable by loosening set screws, and the Picatinny part should be QD. And the 90-degree knob thingy is really hard to use. You have to rotate and it gets stuck, and it's just a pain. It also feels like a missed opportunity not to have used the same hole pattern as the Scout series of lights so as to take advantage of existing aftermarket mount options. If they had at least done that, I could buy a mount that I actually like. Still, I have to grudgingly admit that once I stop being ADD about which light goes on which rifle, this mount does work and it puts the light where I want it. Speaking of putting light where I want it, this light is stupid bright, and it's well enough focused that I can identify and shoot targets much farther away than I'm ever likely to be able to justify in court. A lot of experts will tell you there's no such thing as too bright, but for general purpose defense, I think 100 meters of throw is more than adequate. So at some point, it makes sense to favor runtime and heat management rather than raw power. On the other hand, there's been an arms race between weapon lights for years. Consumers keep asking for and getting brighter lights, and it's a lot easier to market face-melting bright than it is to market long run times. So you can't blame Olight for that. What I can blame them for is this insistence on the tap for constant mode of operation. I've seen this on other lights too, so it isn't like Olight came up with this dumb idea, but I don't like it. And yeah, I understand some of you do like it, otherwise manufacturers wouldn't offer it. But in my less than humble opinion, the way this light ought to work is the tape switch is momentary only, and the tail cap is light press for momentary, hard clicky press for constant. I don't see a lot of need for changing output modes, but I guess a rotating switch on the body somewhere might not be horrible. Or maybe a dip style switch on the inside that you have to use a toothpick to change. I don't know, I'd rather just buy a light with the balance of output and runtime that I'm looking for in the first place. I really only ever want to use it in high face melting mode and momentary. Overall, this light is simple and convenient. It's well thought out, even if it feels like it was designed by committee and some of the decisions aren't what I would have chosen. On balance, it works well, and most of the features are practical without curb feelers. It comes with a tape switch and mounts for both the light and remote switch. It is really a lot of value for poors like you and I who can't afford to buy name brand cheese. I hope you enjoy watching these reviews because I sure like making them for you. If you want to help us keep bringing you banger content like this, please support the folks who support us. Not only does TNVC.com carry a wide selection of low-carb, fat-free, non-GMO night vision products, they also have mounts, lights, and all sorts of other gear to make you the bump in the night. I love you.